Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of the Fantasy Football Champs Live podcast. I am your host, Jim Day, and I am joined by, of course, Mr. Bill Enright of FF Champs. Bill, how you doing tonight?
What's up, man? Week 3, Friday night. Dude, we're going to have a lot of fun, help people with their lineups. Let's get that chat going. Let's get some questions in there. Had a lot of news today, so it's always exciting covering the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. And let's start with, of course, the biggest news of the day. Antonio Brown had a 1 week showing in New England, and today they let him go. You know, Bill, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this entire mess. And what is Antonio Brown going to go anywhere else? Or is he just done?
Well, I think there's a lot of layers here. First of all, with Antonio Brown now gone, Josh Gordon and Julian Edelman's value goes back to where it was before Brown was on the Patriots roster, right? We saw Brown come in, in week 2 against the Dolphins. Josh Gordon didn't have as good of a game. Edelman kind of still had those targets, but not as many as maybe we were expecting. So I do think Edelman now back to a wide receiver 2 in PPR formats. Josh Gordon still in that wide receiver 2 range as well. Tom Brady does take a hit, though, now that he doesn't have Edelman, Antonio Brown, and Josh Gordon to throw to. We'll see what kind of role James White has in his passing attack now. Maybe his value goes up a little bit. Philip Dorsett is clearly the big winner. I thought they would have tried to at least trade him to another team with Brown on the roster, but Dorsett now back as the team's wide receiver 3. So that's kind of the impact for the New England Patriots roster. Now, Antonio Brown cut from the second team, cut by the Oakland Raiders, now cut by the New England Patriots. According to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, there are other teams that were interested before Brown decided to sign with the Patriots. The Cleveland Browns were one of those teams. Rosenhaus said there were a few other organizations that expressed interest in signing Antonio Brown. But right now, with the allegations of rape, with the allegations of sexual harassment, with that Sports Illustrated article coming out earlier this week from I think his name is Robert Clemenco. That was an excellent article kind of diving into all the really scumbag things that Antonio Brown is being accused of, not paying employees and sexual harassment charges and a lot of different things that really paint him in a really ugly picture, very much different from the persona that he puts out on his own social media. So it'll be interesting to see if another team goes after him. Keep in mind, maybe the Patriots were tipped off by the NFL saying, hey, guys, listen, a suspension is looming. You might want to cut bait with him now because we're going to end up putting him on the commissioner exempt list or some kind of suspension where he's not going to be in action. So I don't know if another team goes after him. I was still shocked that the Patriots would even go after him, given the fact that he was posting videos, negative videos with conversations with his own head coach, called his general manager, Mike Mayock, a cracker. A lot of different things that really, aside from all the sexual allegation stuff, the sexual harassment, the rape charges, just things that I'm surprised Bill Belichick would go for. So I'm now here we are all 9 days later after he signed with them and he's off the roster. Short-lived situation. Gave up a lot of money. Antonio Brown could have made like $30 million guaranteed with the Raiders, $15 million with the Patriots. Who knows how much he gets paid now, but I'd be shocked if he ends up on another team in 2019.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's going to end up on the commissioner exempt list. And it wasn't even so bad that he sent the harassing texts, but he sent it as a group text. Other people were involved. I mean, come on. You got absolutely no deniability here. You got nothing. I'm pretty sure he's going to be suspended very soon by the NFL. So I don't think he ends up on any teams. I'm pretty much at this point, if I have Antonio Brown, if I have Antonio Brown, I'm going to wait until they actually suspend him. We've seen weirder things happen, but I think it's going to happen as soon as it does. And feel free to drop Antonio Brown and move on.
So you're cutting him.
I will cut him. Yes. If they suspend him for even a day, I'm going to cut him right off the top. I have no doubt about that. I don't see this coming out in any good way for him at this point. And it's just not going to work. Lots of other news out there, but nothing really earth-shattering. I want to get to some of these questions. We got some questions from Twitter. We got some questions from Facebook. So I'd like to get into some of these and get your thoughts on them so we can go over them. And I'm going to start with the first one that's right here in the chat room from TAC1701. He wants to know, he's carrying two tight ends, Hockerson and Witten, in a 15-man roster. Should I dump one of them and add depth at wide receiver? What's your thoughts on this one, Bill?
So this one's tough because Hockenson and Witten, not exactly the picture of consistency. Sure, Jason Witten has scored touchdowns in back-to-back games. I don't know how long that is going to keep up. TJ Hockenson had a big week in his rookie debut, but then he kind of fell off the cliff in week 2, which I think you could expect more of from a rookie tight end. I think he has to keep both of them, only because I'm not sure which one I'd really tell him to play on a consistent basis at this point. Maybe he can go out and get someone like a Will Dissly, who seems to be pretty involved in the Seahawks passing attack. So 15-man roster, and another thing is I don't know who he's dropping them for. What wide receivers would be available, so that's always kind of part of the equation as well. But if you're dealing with Witten, if you're dealing with Hockenson as your really only viable options, you might be better off saving them, keeping both, and then figuring out who to start based on the matchup.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, I love Hockerson. I think this kid is going to be a beast in this league. But there's so many mouths to feed in that offense right now.
Right.
And the fact that they want to run the ball more, which they haven't really done yet. So if that actually comes to fruition, it's really going to hurt this passing game. Then it's really hard. And like you said with Witten, he's already got 2 touchdowns. Look, Witten's never been a touchdown guy. He's always been a 5 or 6 touchdown a year guy. He's already a third of the way there. I'm not sure I could see him getting too many more than that going forward. It's going to be interesting to see, but you got 2 lower end tight end 2s to me, and no tight end 1. At this point, if this is the best you can do, I can't keep 2 tight ends in a 15-man bench. I can't do it. You only got 15 roster spots. I can't hold 2 tight ends. If I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick Hockerson. He's the better tight end at this point. Witten is still battling, another tight end. He's not by himself. Yeah, I have to go with Hockerson here if I'm going to make this, but I don't love it.
If it's a 15-man bench, it's a 15-man roster, shouldn't there be someone else available at tight end that's better than them?
And that's a great point. That absolutely would be something I would be looking at. Hey, if O.J. Howard is out there and people have been dumping on him. I've seen him dropped in quite a few leagues this week. Go get him. If he's ever going to do anything this year, this is the week he's going to do it against the Giants, because they are just terribly bad against tight ends. And go ahead.
The Browns put David Njoku on IR. So if he's going to make a move, he needs to do it right away, because whoever had Njoku in his league is probably going to be looking for a tight end too.
That's a good point. That's absolutely a good point. But, they got 2 other backups behind him. I guess Ricky Seals-Jones would probably be the guy I would go with over Demetrius Harris.
I'm saying he needs to beat his league mate that's going to go look for a tight end now that his starter.
Oh, yeah, right. Do it fast.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying to pick up one of the Browns tight ends. I'm saying to do it quickly to go out and get somebody, because there's another guy in your league that is now all of a sudden looking for a tight end as well.
Well, he's saying now in the chat room, Dissly, grab him, and I'm going to say yes. If Dissly's there, I would go grab Dissly at this point.
Sure.
He is definitely a red zone threat for Russell Wilson. He was last year before he got hurt, had 2 touchdowns first 2 games, and then got knocked up, and then got fully hurt and was gone. But he's definitely a guy that I think can do that. Gives you a little bit something more there. I go with that. And then trying to see – Jama 415. He wants to know, do we like Josh Gordon this week instead? And I didn't see him say anything else instead of who, but okay, instead. Yeah, I mean,
that's always going to be part of the equation. So anyone that's going to send in a question, let us know who you're considering him over. So if it's Josh Gordon or Larry Fitzgerald or Josh Gordon and Calvin Ridley, that's a major part of the equation, because he could be talking about Josh Gordon instead of Tyler Lockett, and then all of a sudden we're going to say no.
Yeah, right. And that's it. So Beja Beja Jama. give us an instead of in the chat room, and we'll come back to you and see what you got there. But I like Josh Gordon now that Brown is gone. I liked him before Brown got there. We saw last week that Brown took over, and that was a bad thing. But now with Brown gone, I definitely like Gordon. And I think Gordon is somebody I'm going to be playing pretty consistently. Let's see. CM, man, these guys, can't you guys get any easier names? CM Giz the man. He wants to know, what AB released, should he move Josh Gordon over DJ Moore? DJ Moore, of course, with Cam Newton not playing, is going with Kyle Allen at quarterback. But at this point, you have to wonder, can Kyle Allen be any worse than Cam Newton was?
I think that's a good question. I mean, Cam Newton was pretty bad.
He was pretty bad.
So I don't know what to expect from Allen this week as the Bucs are taking on, the Panthers are taking on the Cardinals. I do know it's a high over/under, so Vegas seems to think there's going to be a lot of points on the board. We actually have DJ Moore ranked 21st, and we have Josh Gordon. Oh boy, where do we have Gordon ranked? 27th. So that's pretty close.
So basically a coin flip, really.
Yeah, that's going to be a coin flip. So I'd rather put in Josh Gordon for now, only because we know the Pats are at home. Brady's still going to be pumped up to prove that he can get it done without Antonio. So I'd go with Josh Gordon.
And I'm with you. I would go with Josh Gordon, too. I want to see Allen in a real game. He came in last year, played, in week 17 against the Saints and had a good game, but they were playing all their backups because they didn't need to play the starters. So not really a good test of what he can do against a real defense, although some will say this isn't a real defense. So we'll have to see how that plays out. By the way,
DJ Moore 21st, Josh Gordon 23rd. So truly a coin flip.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. Okay, he's got another one now. He's got another saying here, okay? Yeah, he's down on O.J. Howard, recently scooped up Jason Witten. Should I risk starting Witten based on the matchup against the Dolphins?
Absolutely not. Leave in O.J. Howard. The matchup for O.J. Howard is a lot better than it is for Jason Witten. O.J. Howard is going to get plenty of looks this weekend. Jim, you said it last night on my show with Jim Cramer, Bull Market Fantasy. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. And O.J. Howard has been squeaking a lot. And
everybody's talking about him, including the coaches. That usually means they want to get him involved. And what better place to get him involved than against the Giants, who just can't stop tight ends. Yep. We actually have him as the number one tight end of the week over at Full Time Fantasy. Sean Childs, the guru of rankings for them, has him as his number one tight end of the week. And that's kind of a ballsy call. So we'll have to see if it plays out. But you know what? If he's going to do anything this year, this is the week he should show up. Yep. Because the Giants can't stop him. No. So we'll have to see that going forward. Let's see what else we got. I got a couple questions earlier from Twitter, and this one's from C1980 Crazy. And he wants to know, in a PPR league, should he start Nelson Aguilar, Jarvis Landry, or Demarcus Robinson?
Well, you only pick one of those guys, huh?
Just one, yeah.
I really like Nelson Aguilar this week without Alshon Jeffrey, without Deshaun Jackson. I think he's going to be Carson Wentz's go-to guy other than Zach Ertz. Demarcus Robinson's certainly intriguing because he takes passes from Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to get Landry out of this one, and I might go with Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, see, all three are intriguing to me. Landry hasn't done much yet, but with Njoku out of the lineup, could he step up and become more of that middle of the field receiver? Right. Very possible, but I want to see it first. Baker has not looked that good. This offensive line for them has just been terrible. I wouldn't go there yet. I think both of the other guys have more upside. I like Nelson Aguilar a lot this week now they're saying, though, possibly that Jeffrey might play. Djax is definitely out, but now they're saying that there's a chance that Alshon Jeffrey may play. Really doesn't hurt Aguilar a lot. Maybe it even helps him, because if Jeffrey's not on the field, then the defense is pretty much going to stack on Ertz and Aguilar as the two main weapons. If Jeffrey's on the field, then that probably frees up Aguilar a lot more. So I like him.
I really don't think Jeffrey's going to play.
Yeah, well, and it's very possible, and maybe not, but weirder things have happened. It's just too often, just keep an eye on that report all weekend. But, man, it's so hard to not want to start DeMarcus Robinson after the week he had last week and the fact that he's on Kansas City and the upside that he could have. But, this could be the type of thing where it's just constantly back and forth between DeMarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman as to who has the big week. I'm not really ready to bet on DeMarcus Robinson having a big week every week just yet.
Well, I think it's going to be a mix. I think Travis Kelce's in always to have a big week. And as we saw last week, it was Hardman and Robinson that had the big weeks. And then Sammy Watkins didn't do squat. So I think it's going to be Kelce plus two more people. Now, those two more people can be a running back and a wide receiver. It could be two wide receivers. And then if it's two wide receivers, is it Watkins? Is it Robinson? Is it Hardman? But I think Kelce's a lock. And then two additional players, because that's just how good Mahomes is.
Oh, and absolutely right. And you want to have some piece of this offense as he continues to just tear apart the league. Although at this point in time, he is not the number one fantasy quarterback on the planet. So first time since the beginning of last year that he's not the number one quarterback. That actually belongs to Lamar Jackson. But he's had two really easy matchups the first 2 weeks. Let's see if the boy can continue to make that trend go on. Let's see. He's got a couple other questions. He wants to know, and this one's a little easier for me just based on matchup. Again, Aguilar or now Terry McLaurin. Again, this is all PPR.
Yeah.
Look, I don't like McLaurin's matchup this week at all.
Me either.
The Redskins going against the Bears.
No.
I just don't know if I can get behind that. The applied point total for the Redskins is under 19 points. Doesn't really sound to me like they're going to put a lot of points on the board. And it's just he's been playing well. He's absolutely been playing well. He's been highly involved. But at this point, I just don't think I could do it. I think I have to go with Aguilar in this one.
I'm with you there. I think the Bears are going to get after Case Keenum, make him really uncomfortable. He's going to take a lot of sacks in this game. This is one of those games where we're happy that we have a Bears defense as our defense, special teams, and fantasy, because I can certainly see like a 20-point week out of them.
Yeah, really easily too. I get you on that one. Before we go on to any more questions, I got to ask you, did you get a chance to watch the game last night?
So I watched it. Yes, I was driving back from the city. I do a show with Jim Cramer, Mad Money's Jim Cramer, on Thursday. Usually we do it at 11:15 in the morning live on Thursdays. But yesterday I had to do it at night. You were a guest of the show. You were great. So by the time I left New York City, it was probably 8:15, 8:30. I didn't get home until late. There was a bad accident. I listened to it on the radio. I got home to see that Leonard Fournette had 11 carries for -8 yards. I sent out a tweet saying how bad Leonard Fournette was. Next play, he banged out like a 70-yarder.
Yeah, it's 69, yeah.
Yeah, 69-yarder. So it was just perfect timing for that tweet, of course. But, the next play after that, he trips over his own feet in the backfield instead of, scoring a touchdown on 1st and goal. So Leonard Fournette summed up in 2 plays. He runs for a 69-yarder after having -8 yards on his first 11 carries. Following play, trips over his own 2 feet in the backfield, loses 2 more yards.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Fournette. He's done well in fantasy, but that's only because he's always had so much volume. His numbers across the board are not very good, and actually usually are towards the lower end of the pack in any kind of evaluation of the numbers. So it's just not a big fan. But one thing I did want to ask you, I mentioned it last night. You gave me a little grief about Minshew.
Yep.
Man, I'm mad that you didn't get to see the beginning of the game because this kid was on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, he dropped in some dimes on nice long passes right where they had to be. Should have had 3 touchdowns, dropped one right in the hands of D.D. Westbrook. Perfect pass for a touchdown. He drops it. But this kid, man, he looks good. I think we got a quarterback controversy brewing in Jacksonville right now.
So there's a couple of things here, right, with Gardner Minshew. He had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not exactly quality fantasy starter numbers. So when I said I can't believe we spent 4 minutes talking about Gardner Minshew, we have to really put things in perspective. What are we expecting from him? Are we expecting him to be our quarterback 2? Did you lose Big Ben? Did you lose Drew Brees? And now you're using Minshew as your starter? I think you're in trouble. Is he your second quarterback in a 2-quarterback league? That's okay. Or is he going to be your bye week filler? I still think that's fine as well. But until I can see a 300-yard game and 3 touchdowns, a 275-yard game and 3 touchdowns, I'm just not excited about him. DJ Chark, I'm very impressed that he has 3 touchdowns in 3 games. D.D. Westbrook had a lot of targets last night, a couple key drops. I saw the replay of the touchdown right in his hands. That was a great pass from Minshew. But again, what are we expecting from Gardner Minshew? And then we can properly evaluate what he is in fantasy, because to me, he's outside the top 15.
And I agree with you, absolutely. But the subject was players on the rise.
Yes.
And you told me earlier in the day I couldn't use any of the players that you listed
on
this big, long article you did.
Come on. It was only a couple of players I had.
The article was like this long. So I had to find other players. But, man, I do like this kid. I just love the fact that he's not afraid to go down the field, and that when he does go down the field, his balls are right on the money. I mean, go back and watch some of those passes. I mean, beautiful outs, 30-yard outs that were right exactly where they needed to be. Man, I'm telling you, I really be starting to get a man crush on this guy. Okay. And it's not because of the 70s porn stash either. Okay, so let's go into this. Okay, so it's he wanted Josh Gordon or Edelman is his choice in this one. So I got to ask you, it's standard league. It's not PPR. So yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Yeah, when it comes down to, Edelman is great in PPR and absolutely somebody we want to start every week in PPR. But when it comes to standard, not so much. When you're not getting those points per reception, you're looking at a lot of times where he's going to get you 7, 8, 9 points, which might be a good game for PPR if he's got 5, 6 catches, but it doesn't work in standard. Gordon is definitely the guy I would play in standard, just a better chance to score. So I would go with that. Let's see. We got another one here. Sorry, trying to catch up here. Okay. Here we go. CM Giz the man. He wants to know Matt Breida or Devontae Freeman in standard.
I don't know if there's anyone more disappointing than Devontae Freeman, and I was actually
except Joe Mixon.
Well, I was just going to say Joe Mixon, who I had in the stock down article. If I was going to add another player to that running back section, I probably would have had Freeman in there. I am not using Devontae Freeman this week. I would absolutely use Matt Breida. I have Breida ranked 25th for the week. So, yeah, I'd go with the 49ers rushing attack. They had like 283 combined yards last week as a unit. Breida had over, I think, 121 yards on the day. Didn't get the 2 touchdowns. I don't think you can worry about that too much. I think he'll get plenty of action against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not using Devontae Freeman. You probably invested a 3rd-round pick in him, right? And that's frustrating. But, against at Indianapolis, when he's now splitting time with Ito Smith, and he very clearly is. I mean, Ito Smith was involved a lot in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday night. So if you had to decide between the two, which this guy does, I'm going to go with Breida.
Yeah, it is a tough choice. I mean, look, the Colts are a pretty good defense, but they got shredded by Austin Eckler in week 1. Yeah. 58 rushing yards and a touchdown, but then he had 6 catches for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then in week 2, of course, Derrick Henry had the 81 yards and a touchdown. Not much on passing game, 2 for 12. So it's a little tighter for me. I do worry about the fact that they literally just took the ball out of Breida's hands at the goal line and gave it to Jeff Wilson and let him sneak them in. That bothers me a little bit in standard. And, with Freeman, you're right. I mean, he's definitely been seriously disappointing. Man, I want to say Freeman. I expect him to bounce back. He was my comeback player of the year, and he's really screwing me over at the moment. Okay. I want to say Freeman. I do. I really do. I just can't. I'm hoping that Breida can get in from outside the 5 and not have to worry about that. But he just looks so good running the ball last week. He's running with a lot of energy and power. And, man, I just like this kid a lot. So I'm going to go with Breida as well. Tough choices there. Let's see. We got another question here. This one is from Chet Meyer on Twitter. Okay. He has a shot at picking up Terry McLaurin as a free agent. Wow. He wants to know if any of these three are worth dropping for him.
Ooh,
First one is Robbie Anderson.
no,
The second one is Marquise Brown.
no.
Third one is Latavius Murray.
That,
And it's half-point PPR.
is Latavius Murray his running back 3? Is his running back 5? I don't know. That kind of helps paint the picture a little bit better. If Marquise Brown and Robbie Anderson are on his bench, does he need McLaurin? It sounds like he might need Latavius Murray a little bit more. So for that reason, I'd probably keep all 3, let McLaurin stay out there. But if you tell me that Latavius Murray is his running back 5, then absolutely go ahead and drop him.
And I agree with that. And Murray really hasn't been getting involved. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this hybrid quarterback that they plan on rolling out this week and how they plan to use the rest of the offense. Because let's face it, Murray really hasn't gotten any shot yet and to do much. And man, this whole Bridgewater Taysom Hill combination quarterback thing just got me leery of this whole offense.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with them. Of course, you're going to start Kamara, you're going to start Michael Thomas, but outside of that, everything else is totally up in the air for me, and that just got me scared.
And this was an offense we were relying on. And in that stock up, stock down article that I did, I put stock down due to collateral damage, and I listed the 2 Saints' biggest playmakers, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. Without Drew Brees, right. I do think they're not as valuable. Same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner with the Steelers situation and Ben Roethlisberger. Now, Mason Rudolph, maybe he comes in and he looks good, but with the Taysom Hill, the Teddy Bridgewater back and forth, in and out, I don't know how well that will turn out.
Yeah.
I think quarterbacks need to get into a rhythm, and by doing that, you're disrupting that rhythm that they need.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that at all. I hated when they took Drew Brees out to put Taysom Hill in there. How do you take the ball out of the hands of a future Hall of Famer for this kid? Come on, are you freaking kidding me? Use him as a receiver. Use him as a running back.
Yeah.
Don't put him in at freaking quarterback. That just drove me nuts all the time. It just made me crazy.
Yep.
So I'm really just not sure what's going on with this offense right now. We'll have to see how it works out. But there's obviously that they love this kid, Taysom Hill. Look, I think Bridgewater could be a good quarterback in this league if he ever gets a full shot at it again. Sure, he didn't look good last week, but it's really hard to look good when you don't get any reps during the week and you're coming off the bench with no thought of having to play. So that really it's a different mindset, guys, and it's going to be interesting to say the least what happens with New Orleans this week. Let's see, we got another question here in the chat from YouTube from Glesh. I'm sorry, Geesh. He wants to know, does he start the Dallas defense or Patriots defense? Yeah, that's a good one.
Probably two of the top 3 defenses this week, right?
Yeah. They absolutely should be. Yeah, they're 1 and 2. We have them 1 and 2.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess you play the Patriots defense at home. The Cowboys, are they home too?
Yeah, they're home against Miami.
I don't think you can go wrong when you have a number 1 and number 2 option. That's a good problem to have. They will both score you plenty of points this weekend. One of those teams had to be number 1. You can't put 2 teams at number 1. So I guess go with the Patriots.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, both of them should have a good game and should feast in this matchup. So, yeah, the only thing that might sway me if I really thought about it hard was that at least the Jets have Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
Miami doesn't even have that.
I know. I don't know. I just don't know what he's going to be able to do. So all right, they have Le'Veon Bell, but they're also starting Luke Falk at quarterback.
Well, the one good thing about that, though, was once Luke came in last week, all he did was check down to Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, but they had no other option. I mean, they were down.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
They were down 21 points at that time. So maybe if you're hoping for Le'Veon Bell to get 5 or 6 catches in the fourth quarter when they're down by 3 touchdowns, then sure. But I'd still go with the Pats, I think.
Fair enough. Again, it's one of those situations where I don't think you go wrong either way.
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to think further deeper into it. So let's see. We got another question here. This is again from Crazy C 1980. He wants to know if he should go with Eric Ebron or Will Disley in a PPR. This is a little tougher.
Yeah, that is tough. A lot of people were down on Eric Ebron as soon as the news came out about Andrew Luck. Now, Will Disley, I called him no skill Will last year because, in 2 games, he scored a touchdown. His second touchdown came with 7 seconds left on the clock against the Chicago Bears in week 2. They were down by 14 points, and he spiked the football in celebration, even though the team was losing. And from there on out, I was like, people are going to be asking me about this guy. I have to come up with a good nickname for him. So it was no skill Will. Of course, the next week he goes out and gets injured, and he wasn't back on the field for the rest of the year. Here we are, week 2, a year later. He has 2 touchdowns, just like he did this time last year. Or does he have 3? He scored 2. He scored 2 touchdowns in 1 game, I think, right?
No, he had just the 2 touchdowns, 1 in each of the first 2 games last year.
Right, but this year he has 2 touchdowns against the Steelers, none in week 1.
Yeah.
Right. So, he had 2 targets for 1 catch and 12 yards, something like that in week 1. I'm going to stick with Eric Ebron. He's involved in that passing attack. We saw what Zach Ertz did to the Atlanta Falcons defense last week. So I'm going to stick with Ebron here. I think Jacoby Brissett looks to him more than Russell Wilson will look to Disley. And I'll stick with the better talent, and that is certainly Ebron. No one else will be able to tell me otherwise.
Yeah, and I'm with you at that as well. Disley, he gets the red zone looks, but so does Ebron. So it's not really that big a thing for me that I'm going to worry about it. As a fill-in guy, Disley is not bad. He did have 5 catches for 50 yards with those 2 touchdowns against Pittsburgh. So at least he was involved, but I just don't know if he's going to be that involved each and every week. That's what I'm thinking. So I'll go with you there. And this is why Glesh is worrying about the number 1 and number 2 defense, because he's going to need all the points he can get because his starters are hurt. He's got Damian Williams, Gallup, Alshon Jeffrey, and Njoku on his team. So half his team is already sitting there saying, I can't play. Can't play. Right. Sorry for you, buddy. We got another one from CMZ, Giz the man. Garoppolo or Rivers standard doesn't matter for quarterbacks, but okay. Garoppolo or Rivers, who you like more this week?
I have Rivers ranked 16th and Garoppolo ranked 13th, so I'll go with Jimmy G.
There you go. Rivers 16th. Wow. With Michael, I think I would have him a little higher, but it is what it is. The numbers say that it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's see if we can get the same kind of Garoppolo we had last week.
Let's talk about this. Would you put him over Jameis Winston?
Rivers?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I want to say yes right off the top of my head, but it is the Giants.
Okay. So would you put him over Jared Goff?
Yeah. You're going to run down this list in front of me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. Let's see. Going down the list real quick. Okay, you're right. I'm looking at the list. All those guys have better matchups.
Yeah, Goff against the Browns on Sunday Night Football. I'm expecting a lot of points there. Josh Allen has been incredible.
I like Josh Allen this week, actually.
Playing against a really bad Bengals defense. I love Kyler Murray this week. We just saw Jameis Winston have a really good game against the Carolina Panthers. That's who the Cardinals have this week. Wentz, even without Deshaun Jackson, even without Alshon Jeffrey, I still think he's a top 10 quarterback. And then you have the rest of the guys: Rodgers, Mayfield, Wilson, Brady, Watson, Matt Ryan, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes. Quarterback is deep, Jim.
No, it is absolutely.
Quarterback is so deep, and that's why we tell people. You hear that I have Phillip Rivers at 16, and you automatically think, well, that's the bottom half of the league or the top half of the league. But the fact is that's why we tell people to wait on their quarterback, because even with Phillip Rivers ranked 16th, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to have a bad game. It just means that I think there's 15 other quarterbacks that will have a better fantasy game, and that doesn't detract from what Rivers can do this weekend.
No, you're right, and that's a good point. That's absolutely a good point. And again, that's why we preach what we preach in the preseason. The only thing I'm going to say here is I have Josh Allen higher than you do. I actually have him ahead of Baker Mayfield this week. Baker hasn't really done what we expected so far. And Josh Allen, I mean, he's got such a nice floor. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns already, 1 in each game.
Yep.
He's throwing the ball well. His receivers are playing well. And this week they got Cincinnati, who's just imploding.
I do a major rankings, not a major. I shouldn't scare people. I do a shakeup of the rankings. I kind of go back in. I add a lot of the injuries. I do that on Friday nights. It's kind of my routine on Friday nights where I kind of dial into the rankings a little bit more fine-tuned. So Mayfield may drop down a few spots. Allen may jump up a few spots. I wouldn't be surprised when I'm all said and done. They're ranked 9 and 10. And then Wentz is ranked 12th with Kyler Murray in there as well.
Yeah, good. And you're right. I mean, it's so we're nitpicking over like really just going to be a few points either way for most of these guys.
Yeah, but you know what? I love to do that because I think people have that decision out there. I think maybe someone's asking.
Agree.
Yeah, right. So maybe someone's asking, do I start Josh Allen or Carson Wentz this week? So I kind of go through each level and I say, okay, well, if I had Carson Wentz or if I had Josh Allen, who would I start this week? And that's how I fine-tune the rankings at the end of the day, or at the end of the week. And I'll be doing that shortly after we get done with the show. It'll probably be done by tonight by around midnight.
Hey, just when I get done my other podcast.
Nice.
Folks, you're listening, of course, to Fantasy Football Champs Live, our very first episode. I am Jim Day. You can find me on Twitter at FantasyTaz. Of course, that's Mr. Bill Enright. You can find him on Twitter at Bill Enright. He makes it really tough for you to find him. And, of course, you can always tweet at us at FFChamps, and we'll get back to you that way as well. We are a member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, and we're just trying to get out as much information as we can across the network. And this is just going to be the next pod and the official pod of FF Champs, if anybody's asking. I get that question all the time about After Dark. Is this the official FF Champs podcast?
Yeah. So this is what I think I want to do. I think I want to set up an email address because I know a lot of our members at ffchamps.com, they're used to emailing in their questions and then watching the show on demand whenever they have the opportunity. We did the show tonight at 6:30. We're not saying that that's going to be the permanent, or did we do it at 6?
6, yeah.
6:30 right now. We don't know if that's going to be the permanent time. It just happened that Jim and my schedule worked out and meshed for tonight at 6. But I think what I want to do going forward is I'll have to set up an email address, kind of like a mailbag where people can send in their questions. We can answer them throughout the show, and then at their, when they're available, when they're scheduled. That's the beauty of on demand. Is they can now go in and make sure that their questions got answered. They didn't miss it because they weren't able to watch us live, and we're still helping out as many people as possible. So let me think of the best way to do that. We used to have a mailbag section on FF Champs. I have to find it.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're going to keep going with some more questions.
I don't know where that went.
Mendo Bruce wants to know, Jimmy G coming off that good game or Kyler Murray this week? And, Kyler Murray, it seems like every week he starts off a little slow, like he got to get his feet under him. But then once he does, he starts moving the ball and playing a little better. Who do you like more this week, Garoppolo or Murray?
Garoppolo or Murray? See, I think I have them ranked back-to-back, don't I? Yeah, I have Murray 11, Garoppolo 13th. I really like Kyler Murray this week. I think I'm going to use him a lot in my DFS lineups. I think he's flying a little bit under the radar in terms of what people project for him this weekend. I like Jimmy G too, but I'm going to go with Murray.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray as well. I still want to see if this is going to be the real Jimmy G moving forward or if we're going to go back and forth depending on who he's playing each and every week, and that's my concern with him. Let's see. We got another one here. Oh, got a lot of quarterback questions now. Geesh wants to know, start Baker or Andy? And now, is he talking Andy Dalton? Come on, guys. Don't give us, what you call these guys. Make sure we understand. The only one I can think, though, has to be
Dalton. There can't be anyone else out there.
Yeah, right.
Don't
start Dalton.
Andy Luck is not playing anymore, so that's not going to be the answer. Anyway, who was the other guy besides Dolan?
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry, I got a very important email from the boss, and the boss, being Jim Kramer. So whenever he emails me, I have to make sure I get to it right away. Came up with a good idea for our bull market fantasy show. But anyway, yes, I would not go with Andy Dalton this weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely not. That offensive line is in shambles from injuries. They've been getting cooked left and right. One of the reasons why Mixon just can't get out of the gate. Andy Welsh wants to know in the chat room, is Philip Dorsett now viable since AB is cut? And Bill was talking about that earlier, that
Right.
Dorsett jumps right into that wide receiver 3 role. And, he's not going to be a consistent every week performer.
Right.
But he's going to have some big weeks. And, we talked about this a little bit on the show last night. To me, he's a perfect bye-week injury filler type of guy, somebody that you keep on the bench, throw him in when you have to, and hope he hits those big hits. What's your say on this?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't think he's going to be as consistent as you'd like, but that's not really his play anyway. But we saw Tom Brady go to him a lot in week 1, more so than I expected. And I think Dorsett has kind of carved out a nice little role. Chris Hogan's gone. Antonio Brown is gone. Gronk is gone. So Dorsett is firmly implanted as the wide receiver 3. Their rookie N'Keal Harry's still on IR. I think Dorsett could be a quality bye-week filler for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Absolutely. I think, especially with no tight end to speak of. So he will be involved in some cases. The problem with having to count on Dorsett, though, is you always got James White there to absorb so many targets sometimes that could really hurt him.
Well, the nice thing about knowing this is when they go deep, it's not going to be James White. It'll be Dorsett or Gordon.
Right.
When they're in close to the end zone, it's probably going to be James White because they run a lot of screenplays to him inside the 20.
Okay, so let's keep going. I'm just going to call him Bay from now on. Bay wants to know Josh Allen or Jameis Winston. I do like both of them this week, but for me personally, I like Josh Allen a lot this week. With Winston, it's more of, he's playing the Giants. He should do well. Does he? We just don't know. I like Allen so much more this week.
Yeah, I'm with you on Winston as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm with you on Allen as well.
I was just about to comment on that.
I would not start Winston.
Not in that case. I mean, if it's Winston or, I don't know, Andy Dalton, then I'd go Winston. Well, actually, you do have Winston over a couple of people. You have him over Rivers. You have him over Cousins, over Stafford. Trubisky, of course, Brissett. So, definitely he's startable in some leagues, but depends. Just not in this one.
Right.
I wouldn't go with him there. Let's see. Oh, Mendo Bruce has another one for us. Tyrell Williams, Stephon Diggs, DeMarcus Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Matt Breida, pick 2.5 PPR. You're shaking your head, so I'll let you get out there what you want to get out there.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
With the obvious choice, the first one being Stephon Diggs, I think has to be in the lineup. The next one is.
Oh, wait. Why?
Why is he the obvious choice?
Well, no, yeah. Why is he? Look, I'm not saying the man can't play and is one of the better wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
But so far, this team hasn't used him. I think, what has he got? 3 receptions on the year.
I think week 1 he was pretty banged up. I think that injury was slowing him down a little bit. We're now 2 weeks removed from that injury where he got in a full week of practice from what I read. On the other hand, Tyrell Williams dealing with an injury. Right. Josh Jacobs dealing with an injury. So I'll always go with the player on the better team, a little bit more involved that is healthy. Now, DeMarcus Robinson, Matt Breida, or I'm going to rule out Tyrell Williams here. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs. That to me is more of a conversation. I might just go with the running back and take Josh Jacobs as long as he's playing, because I think that workload that he's going to get is guaranteed, where we don't really know if Matt Breida is going to be on the goal line. We don't know if DeMarcus Robinson, we said it before during our discussion about the Chiefs, we don't know if it's going to be a Watkins, a Hardman, a Darwin Thompson week for the Chiefs, other than we know it's going to be a Travis Kelce week. So if I had to pick 2, and apparently we do, I'm going to go with Diggs and Josh Jacobs as long as Jacobs is active. Now, if Jacobs is not active, I'd probably pivot and go with Matt Breida.
Yeah, the only 2 problems I have with Jacobs is not only was he dealing with the injury this week, but he said he was dealing with being sick as well. He lost 5 pounds, and that that kind of thing just scares me. But every time I think that, every time we hear news about a player like that, oh, he hasn't been doing well, and but he's going to try and play. Freaking guy goes out for 125 and 2 touchdowns or something like that, and that just it just bugs me all the time when that happens. Jacobs is definitely a guy that normally, if without any of that, would be a no-brainer number one for me. Stephon Diggs, yeah, he's right now. Stephon Diggs to me is the best player of that bunch. But the fact of the matter is, in week 1, they only threw the ball 10 times, and that kind of stuff scares me. Cook is running so well that they don't feel the need to put the burden on Cousins, which is smart, because I wouldn't put the burden on Cousins either. He's absolutely the epitome of a game manager. He's not somebody who's going to go out there and win games for you all on his own. This one's a tough one for me. To be honest, I'm more than likely, I'd probably go with the two running backs.
Okay.
Jacobs and Breda, just because I think they're going to get more touches, almost more guaranteed touches for sure. And I think I would go with the 2 of them and stay away from Diggs. I want to see them get Diggs more involved before I'm ready to buy into it.
That question is going to be bothering me all weekend. And I'll watch the games on Sunday, and I'll be like, I'll have those 5 guys in my mind, and I'll try to remember what we said, because that's a tough one. That's a tough one. There's a lot. It is a
tough one. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's a lot of moving parts in there.
Yeah, certainly is.
But by Sunday, I will have totally forgotten this question. Sorry, Mendo. By then, I will have answered about 300 others. So I won't have the same problem Bill does. I will not remember that. Okay, Geesh has another one for us. What do we expect from Devin Smith this week since Gallup is out?
3 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown last week. Kind of came out of nowhere. I picked him up in my fantasy football world championship team for like $3, and it was $1,000 budget. So I thought that was a great buy. Gallup is going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. Surgery, arthroscopic surgery for that meniscus problem. I don't know if it's a tear or a sprain.
A slight tear, and then they just cleaned it up. Yeah, it wasn't full.
So I think Devin Smith can come in now. Randall Cobb, to me, I think he was over the hill with the Packers. I think he had a good game against a really bad Giants secondary in week 1. Didn't produce in week 2. Good matchup against the Dolphins. But what did the Dolphins do the most? They let people get behind them. They got burnt by Marquise Brown in week 1. They got burnt by a couple Patriot playmakers in week 2. I think Devin Smith catches a long touchdown pass from Dak Prescott this weekend. So that's what I can expect from him. Whether or not you're going to put him in your lineup, that depends who else you're comparing him to.
And that's a great point. Am I going to start him over guys that have been doing well already? Then no. If you got a couple of guys that have been suspect and haven't really lived up to what your expectations are, then maybe you take that shot. Or if you're dealing with the guys that are injured or half injured, like Tyrell Williams or Alshon Jeffrey, I might take that shot against Miami. Look, they like this kid. They're glad he's back on the field. He's definitely a guy who can get down the field in a hurry.
Yeah.
So, I definitely think that comes into play, even if it's only for 1 or 2 plays, but it could be big ones. Yeah. So, I expect the same. Let's see, another question here in the chat room from Carl. Shoot. I think we answered this earlier for somebody else, but Carl came late. I saw he mentioned that. Aguilar or McLaurin?
Let's get a different answer this time.
Yeah, there you go. We'll shake up the first question.
No, I'm sticking with Aguilar.
Yeah, me too. I'm going with Aguilar. Don't like McLaurin's matchup this week. I think they're going to have a hard time getting the ball out to him enough consistently, whereas I think Aguilar is going to be heavily involved in the passing game. So that one works up good for me. Let's see. We got another one here from Lennon. Lennon works. Lennon, he wants to know Ridley or Josh Gordon in a PPR. I kind of like Ridley too this week.
Yes, I do like Ridley a lot. He was one of my favorite players heading into the draft. I have him ranked 23rd and 24th, Jim.
Man, I can't believe how often that happens.
Well, it's right on the FFCPI. I mean, you could go look it up. Josh Gordon is 23rd, and Calvin Ridley is 24th, and they have the exact same score of 77. And the way the system works is one of them has to be ahead of the other when they get the same score, and that's what happened here. So I don't, go with Calvin Ridley.
I would go with Calvin Ridley for one pure reason.
Yeah.
We don't know how long New England is going to have to play their starters.
Right. That's a good point.
Going against the Jets, this is supposed to be a blowout from start to finish, like their first two games. And, you just don't know if Gordon is going to be in there the whole game. Whereas, I expect Atlanta to be in a shootout with Philly and have to keep Ridley involved heavily in the game. So that's why I would kind of go with Ridley over Gordon. But again, it's very close. We're talking probably minuscule numbers, and really comes down to who gets lucky and gets in the end zone is really what's going to put one over the top of the other. Let's see. Okay, we got another one here from John Reed. Hey, John, welcome. John follows me everywhere, so thank you, John, for hanging around and coming to see our show. He wants to know Winston or Goff this week. Now, I know you have Goff a little lower than most weeks going against Cleveland in Cleveland, but you have Winston again, one place right behind Goff.
I swear, people like to just go look at my rankings and they say, "Oh, well, let's mess with them here and ask a player back to back in the rankings." So I have Goff 14th, Winston 15th. I'm going to stick with Goff here.
There you go. It's a tough one. Goff's just got so many good playmakers. Winston does too, but he hasn't gotten Evans involved at all yet. Hopefully that changes this weekend. You got to expect it to. It is the Giants. They should be able to feast on the Giants. This one's tough, but basically, John, it really is. This is epitome of a coin flip. You're talking about whichever one just happens to come out and have the better game this week, but both of them have good opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any more. Trying to see. CMG is the man, aka Corey from Denver, aka the ladies' man. LOL. Bill should remember me from the Pats radio broadcast. Anyways, Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson. Oh, there you go.
Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson. I'm going to stick with Lamar. I'm going to stick with Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to have an excellent game against the Kansas City Chiefs. My man Corey, loved that he tuned into the show today. But yes, I will be using Lamar Jackson. You can't bench a guy that is putting up better numbers than Patrick Mahomes, can you? No way, no how.
You're right. He's the number one fantasy quarterback. We said that earlier. So kind of hard to sit him, although, the first two games were very easy matchups. Kansas City's defense is not really all that good either, so he should be able to feast on them as well. Let's see. Carl Shute has another one for us. Landry, Aguilar, or Demarcus Robinson. Man, Aguilar and Demarcus Robinson and Landry have been in so many of my questions this week. I'm going to start this one. Look, Aguilar to me is the safest of the trio. I really do feel that, you're looking at double-digit points easily with Aguilar as a safe bet. Demarcus Robinson, to me, has the biggest upside of the three, playing in Kansas City, but he also probably, to me, also has the lowest floor in the fact of it could easily go to the other receivers and not him this week. Landry, to me, is right in the middle. So if it's me, if I look at it this way, if you think you really need the major upside, if you're going up against a guy who's stacked and you need a player that could give you that upside, then it's Demarcus Robinson. If you want safe, double-digit points, then it's Aguilar for me. How about you, Bill?
I'm with you. It really depends on your lineup roster construction. Aguilar, I think, to me, much higher floor this week, and thus makes him safer.
Okay. Bay has another one for us. Preston Williams or Devin Smith. Preston Williams, another person I talked about last night. He's been steady. He's getting those, 10, 11-point weeks the first 2 weeks. He's involved in the passing offense, and they're going to have to throw a lot being behind probably from the opening gun of every game. But Devin Smith, I kind of like Devin Smith this week with Gallup out. What's your thoughts here?
My thought is, how is this guy already down to Devin Smith
and Preston Williams?
I mean, is he in a 20-man league?
Oh, he might have had Antonio Brown, Alshon Jeffrey.
I guess. Did he draft Tyreek Hill, Antonio Brown,
yeah, there you go.
Sean Jackson, Michael Gallup?
Yeah.
I mean, how is he down to these options already? I'm gonna go with Devin Smith.
Yeah, I think he has more upside. Preston, again, this comes down to Preston Williams. I think might be the safer of the two, but I think that Devin Smith has that long play upside that Preston Williams doesn't have right now. So I would go with him. Carl Shute has another one for us. Ridley or Allen Robinson?
Ridley.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same. I just don't trust Trubisky at this point. Heck, I don't even trust Matt Nagy at this point. I go from being coach of the year last year to coming out in week one and making the most idiotic choices I've seen from a head coach in a long time. Yep. Just doesn't make any sense to me. You got a quarterback on the field who's throwing like crazy, yet you let him throw 45 times, and you get cute with your running backs and have 4 different guys involved. I hate that kind of stuff.
I don't know how much more questions we have, but we have about 5 minutes left.
Oh, yes, we do. Okay.
And I want to tell everyone that earlier I said that we'd have some kind of mailbag system. I just found, I'm a little bit sick in the head. I have to remember URLs. So I just remembered the ffchamps.com URL where people could submit questions. So next week we will have that URL active. It's a way that you can type in your question. We will have a lot of these questions kind of in the can so that when Jim and I are on air, we can just bring them up right away. That'll be fun. And it'll help people submit questions that don't necessarily watch the show live.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so let's bang out a couple more questions and answers here. And of course, we'll be around all weekend for your expert advice, tokens. And then Sunday morning, we are live for premium members only from 11 o'clock to 12:30, 12:45. So plenty of ways that you can get in contact with us. Plenty of ways that you can get your questions answered for your lineups.
Yeah, don't forget. I mean, you could always post on our Facebook page. You can always post on Twitter to either Bill or I or FF Champs, and any one of those will get you your thoughts or questions in front of us. So no doubt. Mendo Bruce has another one for us. Mike Evans or Tyler Lockett?
Mike Evans. He's going to have, for the first time all year, he'll have more points than Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got to believe that too. There's no way they continue to run this way. Look, we love Godwin. We did. We talked about it all preseason. We knew he was going to have a nice year this year and definitely move very high up into the rankings. But Evans is still Evans. And the fact that they really haven't gotten him involved, I think this is the week he breaks out and has a great game. So I'm going to go with you there.
Next one. What do we got?
I'm trying to find. Give me a second.
I just want to listen, we got to get off by 7 o'clock. I just want to make sure we get to everyone's questions.
Okay, here we go. Lennon has another one. Marlon Mack or Tyler Boyd in 0.5 PPR?
Marlon Mack might not play this week, has the questionable tag. I'm playing Tyler Boyd.
I agree with that, unless Marlon Mack gets in a full practice tomorrow, in which case I'd probably go back to Mack. But Boyd has been getting it done, so I don't have a problem with that at all. Let's see. Tack has the next one. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, or DeMarcus Robinson. Kick out DeMarcus Robinson. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin got to be in there.
When you have studs like that, that's an easy one to pick. Well, yeah. I don't know why he has 2 Bucks wide receivers, but this weekend that'll work out.
Yeah, this weekend against my Giants, that'll work out. And I think we had one more from Facebook. Crazy C 1980. Trey Burton or Jimmy Graham?
That's just disgusting. I mean, that is terrible. I feel bad for who is this asking this question?
Crazy C 1980.
I feel bad for the Crazy C 1980. That is the garbage of the garbage. I guess Trey Burton, Jimmy Graham, 3 catches in 2 games. Not exactly doing anything. If he didn't have a touchdown in week 1, he'd already be off your team. So go with Trey Burton.
Actually, and that's Carl Shute, who's in the chat room here with us. He just typed in there. That's me. I also have Goddard, and Goddard
that's not helping either.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
That's just making it worse.
That is definitely trouble.
Quit while you were ahead, Carl.
I would go with Burton, but yeah, I don't love either of them, to be honest. And that is all the questions I have.
All right. Great show. I loved everyone chiming in. I love this feature that we have on the site. I love being able to get back to doing a weekly show, which we will do going forward on ffchamps.com. Love working with Jim. He's great. I found that last night. He's in 137 drafts. When you told Kramer that, I thought he was going to pass out. But again, I'll get that weekly mailbag feature back up on the site. It'll be part of the daily content schedule where you could submit your questions. But again, all weekend long, expert advice throughout the weekend. Expect a big shakeup on the FFCPI. And on Sunday, from 11 to 12:30, 12:45, we will have one-on-one expert advice, live chats. I'll be in the chat room one-on-one with just you and me, and we'll hammer out your lineup, all your questions on Sunday morning.
I thought it was my week this week.
Well, if you want to take over, that's great.
Well, I figure you've been running around. You might need to sleep.
I maybe do some yard work, but no, I plan on doing it this week. That's fine.
Okay. No worries. Folks, again, this is FF Champs Live. We will be coming at you each and every week. We're just not exactly sure of the exact time each week. We're trying to nail that down this weekend, but as you can tell, both of us run around a lot and do quite a few things all at once. So we will find a good time and nail this down going forward. Don't forget, we are a part of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. Please give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, subscribe to us on YouTube or on iTunes, whatever you can do. Please, whatever you can do. We're just getting this one started. So however you can do to help us, we gladly appreciate it. We appreciate you all hanging out with us and asking us your questions. So thank you all, everybody. Have a good weekend. Good luck this weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Good night, all.
Take care.